And that's how you get self-analysis. You open up a book of truth and a book of light, and that reminds you of who you are and what you're capable of. We have a small library. I'm not saying this as a joke. It really is a very small library in comparison to the thousands and thousands of holy books that are printed. And there are books of Hasidus. And the Rebbe, as the great leader of the 7th generation, and the Rebbe who told us about help someone put on tefillin and light Shabbos candles and do a favor and go out and open up Chabad houses, that's that same Rebbe that said, be sincere in your service to God and study Hasidus daily, as much as you can. Open up that Tanya. Yesterday we were privileged to have a senior shliach, Rabbi Gordon, who lives in the valley, Encino, and we hosted him actually. It was a beautiful event. We had like 30 rabbis, and for 3.5 hours he told stories of miracles. But it wasn't the miracles that you pull a rabbit out of the hat. Every miracle had a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning was, I worked. The middle was, I got stuck. The end was, the Rebbe helped. Now, every miracle story had that. But he was so honest in what he spoke. I mean, I said maybe 30 people there. We were enthralled. Every one of his projects, his enthusiasm, his obstacles, I'm giving up, and then the Rebbe saying, well, you're crazy giving up. What's there to give up? The solution is right in front of you. So be energetic and think good, and it's going to happen. And guess what? It happened. Incidentally, my own brother Eli, may God grant him a lot of money because he has these colossal financial things he's dealing with right now, told me many times, he showed me a letter where he writes to Rebbe, he says, Rebbe, I'm dead. I can't do it anymore. It's all over. And the Rebbe writes back, really, really calm. I don't know why you're so frantic. It's not the first time I got a letter like this. You've gone through these crises before. And every single time you saw a miracle, why is now different? This I heard with my own ears from the Rosh, Rabbi Shochat. He says that he runs a school in LA. He has to pay, I don't know how many teachers, but it's a very big budget. He is a true Torah scholar, gives classes 2-3 times a day up to advanced Talmud, and it's his responsibility to keep it going. And he says, it comes the last week of the month, the paycheck has to be met, and he can't sleep at night, and he begins to perspire, and basically for approximately 6 days, his life is a living, I don't want to say the word hell, but very difficult life. And what happens? A miracle. Some good-natured guy says, Rebbe, I just finished my accounting, I'm supposed to give a tithe. Guess what? It just so happens to be that the tithe covers the budget. So he says, when it happened the first time, Baruch Hashem. Oh, God is great. Second month, exactly the same story. It's just a different, this time the ending is with a different person. Comes the third month, same thing. The last week is horrible, and the miracle happens. So now I heard him say this. He says, look, in Jewish law, if something happens 3 times, we can assume it's going to happen. So all I have to know is that at the end of every single month, God's going to make a miracle. So why do I agonize every month? It's for years this is happening. I don't know how many years this poor man is schlepping this load, but for years. 3 weeks is semi. The last week, how are we going to do it? And we do it. The miracle happens in front of your very eyes. And the Yetzer Hara says, oh, this time it's really bad. Oh, forget it. It's really bad. It's not really bad. Faith, confidence, optimism, tracht gut wird sein gut. So he said a story, but I'm going to fill in a little bit of some details. I'm very proud of my last name. And being that my father went to heaven a little bit less than 2 weeks ago, I'll take the opportunity just to give 1 or 2 words about him. My father, of blessed memory, basically was a very, very prominent rabbi, besides being a terrific dad, for over 50 years. And quite a remarkable personality in terms of leadership. I mean, to me, he remains a very vibrant and challenging figure. He doesn't let me feel good about myself. I mean, it's like, you know, he's a great man, and he was very human. He's my dad, you know, not perfect. So I saw that you don't have to be perfect to be great, and that's a challenge.
Beautiful.
This young man became a Lubavitcher at a very early age of 17. When he was 17 years old, this goes back to in 1938. He was in yeshiva, very Americanized. His attitude, his life, all of his friends, handball, stickball, chocolates, you know, the works. It wasn't, you tell them, you know, in Europe, there are people that put their feet in cold water so they shouldn't fall asleep at night so they could study Torah. And for an American kid, that sounds like a torture. You know, for a European, oh, what a tzaddik. You know, they have stories about this. The less he ate, the less he slept. You know, the more he couldn't see, the more difficult of a physical life. Oh, what a great tzaddik. An American kid, guy's killing himself. Never sleep on the bed with a pillow. That'd be a mensch. So this is an American kid. And this American kid was attracted to the teachings of Hasidus through Rabbi Jacobson and others, and said to his dad in 1939, I want to go to Europe. He said, what are you going to do in Europe? I want to go to Europe, I want to go to Poland, I want to go to Atvats, because the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe is teaching Torah, and I want to join that way of life. And his father, who was a businessman, did not have a beard, good-looking guy, you know, really, you know, a traveling salesman, said, Avrom, you crazy? You're not going. And besides, in 1939, we all know the Anschluss had already taken place, and you could literally hear the, you know, the footsteps of the Nazis. The war was going to break out at any moment, and I'm not letting you go. So my dad said, okay. And basically went to the office and he forged his father's signature, which says, I give permission to my son to travel overseas. And then used to had an agreement with the postman that when they come to deliver the mail, he should not deliver the mail to the house until he talks to my father. Because he wanted to make sure that he gets the passport and whatever it is, the permission, because he knew if his father got it, he would say, why? You forged my signature, I'm not letting you go. Anyway, what happened is he went, together with 6 other boys, to Europe, and then spent very long time over there, only 3 weeks. And then the war broke out, and with miracles, basically he came back. He came back a chassid. He saw a Rebbe. He met this Rebbe, our Rebbe in Paris, who greeted the boys and said, you're doing a wonderful thing. You should understand that when you go to a tzaddik, you're going to be in the presence of greatness. And then he came back a chassid. When the previous Rebbe with miracles escaped, you have to remember the war broke out 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah, September 1st, 1939. By the first day of Sukkot, the Germans were in Warsaw. Those 4 weeks, the previous Rebbe was in Warsaw, lived through the bombardment. When the first day of Sukkot came, the Germans proudly strutted in through the cities after having destroyed hospitals. They were indiscriminate in their cruelty. By Simchas Torah, 8,000 Jews were murdered. The Rebbe saw all of this. When he came in March 1940 to America, he was broken. He had never seen, he had lived through the cruelty of the Tsar, and he had lived through the cruelty of Stalin, and nothing could have prepared him for the cruelty of the Germans. He was broken. When he came in a wheelchair. It was the beginning of March 1940, And he was greeted by thousands of Jews who greeted him as a hero and as a refugee. And he had just come from Poland where the war had broken out. Everyone wanted to know what was happening. They looked one glance at his holy face. They saw suffering written. And they said, we're going to give this Rebbe a good time. Rebbe, you could convalesce. We're going to get you a mansion in Lakewood, New Jersey. You pick. We're going to make you a shtetl where you could live the rest of your life, you know, praying for the Jewish people and trying to recover from the trauma. And when the Rebbe came off, he said, I didn't come to America to recuperate. I came to America because God wants me to transform this country. And this country, America, there's no reason why Jewishly it can't be Europe. America is nicht anders. And the great Hasidim that were there, and there were very few of them, said, Rebbe, do you have any idea of American Jewry? The number one goal of an American Jew is to assimilate. He's embarrassed that his father and grandfather speaks with an accent. Going to City College was the pinnacle. My son is a professional, an American. And you want to introduce European Jewry? And the Rebbe said, I was brought here for a mission, and I will not go to sleep without the knowledge that tomorrow there's going to be a yeshiva that's going to teach Hasidus. He didn't say the word teach Hasidus, that he said that there's going to be a yeshiva of Tomchei Tamimim Lubavitch that's going to change America. You couldn't find 10 Jews that were going to yeshiva. They did. One of those 10 was my father. The first 10 students. Rabbi Gordon, last night, it was his father. He was another person. There was Rabbi Kolodny, there was Rabbi Herschel Greenberg. 14 people eventually signed up within the first week. The first 10, Lubavitch, Chabad Lubavitch, started with a Rebbe that went through hell on earth, looking at 10 kids who liked to play handball. They studied Torah. They weren't dummies. Believe me, my dad was not a dummy. They all studied Torah, but they were as American as apple pie. And to say this is European Jewry was the equivalent of saying they're Santa Claus. They weren't. Maybe they were close to that. Who knows? Yeah. 10 students, 60 years later, Chabad Lubavitch, over the world. What does Chabad Lubavitch stand for? America is not any different. Yiddishkeit is the same. God doesn't change because it went over the Atlantic Ocean. The tefillin doesn't change because it's so many miles past. Yiddishkeit is true. Truth is eternal. So let me tell you one thing about how I started off. Do you know yourself? So Rabbi Gordon yesterday told the story about my uncle. My uncle, my father's older brother, his name was Moshe Yitzchak. I knew him very well. He was my uncle. I actually studied in New Haven the first year when they made the yeshiva, and I spent a lot of time in his presence. He was a real chassid, a real fighter, a soldier. He was also very emotional. And when he spoke, he was fire. I mean, all of the Hess speak well. My wife tells me I never stop speaking. So I don't know if I speak well, speak too much, but we speak well. But we're a pale reflection of the uncles and of my father. He was an orator, and my uncle was a fiery speaker. Anyway, he's very emotional, but with that emotion came also with, the expression is, you reveal the heart. And one day he wrote the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was in New Haven, Connecticut, and he was a rabbi of a synagogue, and he opened up a school, a modern Hebrew day school. And he wrote the Rebbe, the opposition is fierce, the budget is impossible, I have no support from my community, people are questioning why I'm doing this, and I think it's not for me anymore. It's not that I doubt the importance of the mission, but I'm truly doubting the me. So my suggestion, Rebbe, is that you send a replacement, and I will give over all of responsibilities, and I will help him as much as possible. I can't do it. You need a new person here. That's what he wrote to Rebbe. You need a new person. And he sends this letter to the Rebbe, and he's hoping to get a letter that's saying, I received your resignation, it's a shame, I want to give you a gold watch for your hard work, and I'm sending 3 people to replace you, and they'll do a much better job. Instead, he didn't get that. He got a letter from the Rebbe, and it said, Dear Rabbi Hack, I received your letter, and guess what? He didn't say, guess what? He said, there's a verse. Even before you cry out, I answer. We say this about God, that God knows our needs. So even before we ask Him for it, He already answers us. He said, I heard your plea, and even before you wrote me, I already answered you. I did send a replacement. I will tell you his name. His name is Moshe Yitzchak Hecht. He said, he's a very good replacement, and I would like you to meet him. And I'm surprised that you haven't yet met him. And I don't know, then there was like another line or two. He said it yesterday, and he showed us the paper. Do you hear what the Rebbe said? Basically, a chassid said to the Rebbe, I can't do it. I'm maxed out. I am inferior. You deserve better, Rebbe. And the Rebbe says, you don't know who you are. I know who you are. I chose you as my representative, and I don't misjudge people. So when you think you know yourself and you find yourself short, you don't know yourself. Look inside. You will find new resources. You will find more strength. You will find more determination, and you will succeed. Stop measuring yourself by your standards. Measure yourself by my standards. And if I am your Rebbe, I don't make mistakes. He didn't say that, but that's what I got from the letter. You understand? Who are we? Claim to mention small people, petty people. All of the isms and all of the little mishigasim that we have doesn't sound that different than other people. But the Rebbe chose us. How well do you know yourself? You don't know yourself at all. Open up a Tanya, and you will read that you have a soul, and that you're good, and all you want to do is good, and what you really, really want is for other people to do good, and your greatest pleasure in the world is celebrating good, and your mission in life is to bring the Mashiach. That's what you're supposed to do. And then if you want to know who are you, say to yourself, I went through an analysis. The Rebbe chose me. If the Rebbe chose me, he was so smart. He was so holy. No one ever caught him making a mistake. The only mistake he ever made was choosing me. I refuse to acknowledge that. No, he didn't make a mistake. I'm making a mistake, not him. So tonight when it comes to Yud Shvat, every one of us should feel we were chosen by God. We have a leader, we have a Rebbe, we have Chasidus. They all say the same thing. God says it, and the Rebbe says it as his representative, and the book says it, and it's printed. And they all say, me and you could be much better than we are. Me and you are actually better than we think. And most of all, me and you, even though it's not correct in English, you and I, and together, we can actually change the world. Amen. So you go outside, and you find a neighbor, and you don't say to yourself, hey, he's not going to listen to me. You say to your neighbor, I represent Moses. And Moses told me to tell you that Shabbos is waiting for you. Tefillin is waiting for you. Brit Milah is waiting for you. Jewish education is waiting for you. The Torah is waiting for you. L'chaim, l'chaim, and God give us the ability to absorb some of the messages. L'chaim, l'chaim.